And many of the archaeologists and scientists today look at this document because it is an obvious reference to the Exodus in every detail.
There are moments in history when the sands of time seem to whisper secrets long forgotten. Hidden beneath ruined temples, buried inside ancient tombs, or preserved in fragile manuscripts, these discoveries often force humanity to reconsider everything it thought it knew about the ancient world. Sometimes, a single text can ignite fierce debates between historians, skeptics, believers, and archaeologists alike. For centuries, critics of the Bible argued that many of its most dramatic events were nothing more than mythology, symbolic stories passed down through generations with little connection to real historical events. But every so often, archaeology uncovers something deeply unsettling, something ancient, something that appears to echo the very events described in Scripture with shocking detail. One Egyptian document, written thousands of years ago on fragile papyrus, has done exactly that. Its words describe rivers turned to blood, nationwide chaos, servants fleeing their masters, death spreading across the land, and a civilization collapsing into terror. To some researchers, it is merely poetic literature describing social upheaval. But to others, the parallels are impossible to ignore. Tonight, we explore one of the most controversial discoveries ever connected to the biblical account of Exodus, the mysterious Ipuwer Papyrus. But before we uncover what this ancient text actually says, take a moment to subscribe to the channel and join us as we journey into the mysteries of ancient civilizations, forgotten history, archaeology, and the incredible discoveries that continue to shake the modern world. Now, let us step back nearly 4,000 years into the land of ancient Egypt. In the 19th century, European archaeologists and scholars became obsessed with Egypt. Ancient temples were being excavated, hieroglyphics were finally being deciphered after the discovery of the Rosetta Stone, and forgotten texts began emerging from tombs and ruins across the Nile Valley. Among these discoveries was a damaged but remarkable document now known as the Ipuwer Papyrus, officially catalogued as Papyrus Leiden 1344 and preserved at the Leiden University libraries. The text itself was translated by Egyptologist Sir Alan Gardner in 1909. Written in hieratic Egyptian script, the document appears to contain the lamentations of a man named Ipuwer, who describes Egypt descending into complete disaster. What immediately captured attention was not merely the dramatic tone of the writing, but the eerie similarities between its descriptions and the biblical plagues recorded in the book of Exodus. For many readers, the parallels were astonishing, and that is where the controversy truly began. The Ipuwer Papyrus paints a horrifying portrait of societal collapse. Egypt, once stable and powerful, appears overwhelmed by catastrophe. The text speaks repeatedly of suffering, confusion, famine, violence, and death. One of the most frequently quoted lines reads, "The river is blood." To many Bible readers, this immediately recalls Exodus chapter 7, verse 20. "So all the waters that were in the river were turned to blood." The similarities become even more intriguing as the papyrus continues. Ipuwer describes widespread death throughout the land. He speaks of people mourning everywhere, bodies scattered across the nation, and the wealthy reduced to despair while servants and commoners rise in social power. Another passage declares, "Indeed, gates, columns, and walls are consumed by fire." This reminds some researchers of the fiery destruction associated with the biblical plagues. The document also states, "Indeed, grain has perished on every side." That description closely resembles the devastation of crops described during the plagues of hail, locusts, and disease in Exodus. The parallels continue almost relentlessly. Darkness, death, economic collapse, social disorder, servants fleeing, national panic. To believers, these details appear to reflect memories of a genuine historical catastrophe that survived in Egyptian literature. To skeptics, however, the matter is far more complicated. One of the reasons this document causes such fierce debate is because scholars do not fully agree on what kind of text it actually is. Some Egyptologists argue that the Ipuwer Papyrus is not a historical record at all, but rather a literary composition, a poetic lament meant to describe moral and social chaos symbolically. Ancient Egyptian literature often used exaggerated language to portray periods of instability or criticize leadership. In this interpretation, the text may simply describe general societal collapse rather than specific historical events. Others believe the document preserves cultural memories of real disasters that struck Egypt during a turbulent era. This disagreement is crucial. If the papyrus is purely symbolic literature, then the similarities to Exodus may be coincidental or the result of common ancient imagery. But if it reflects actual historical trauma, then the implications become much more dramatic. Could Egyptian witnesses have preserved fragmented memories of events resembling the biblical plagues? That question continues to divide researchers even today. Another major debate surrounding the Ipuwer Papyrus involves its age. The surviving copy, currently held in Leiden, dates to around the 13th century BC during Egypt's New Kingdom period. However, most scholars believe the text itself is much older and was copied from earlier sources. Some place its original composition during Egypt's first intermediate period, centuries before the traditional dating of Moses and the Exodus. Others argue the dating remains uncertain enough that firm conclusions cannot be reached. This uncertainty has created endless controversy. Critics point out that if the original text predates the Exodus account, it cannot describe Moses's plagues directly. Supporters counter that ancient documents were frequently copied over centuries, and exact dating in the ancient world is notoriously difficult. What makes matters even more fascinating is that the Book of Exodus itself does not provide modern-style chronological details that historians can easily align with Egyptian timelines. As a result, the debate remains unresolved. Yet, despite scholarly caution, public fascination with the papyrus has only grown stronger, because the similarities remain undeniably striking. Perhaps the most haunting aspect of the Ipuwer Papyrus is the emotional tone running through the document. This is not triumphant royal propaganda celebrating Pharaoh's greatness. Instead, it sounds desperate, mournful, and terrified. Ipuwer repeatedly describes ordinary life collapsing before his eyes. Social order has inverted. Servants possess wealth while nobles suffer. The land mourns. Death spreads everywhere. One chilling section says, "Those who were buried are cast out upon the high ground." Another states, "Many dead are buried in the river." The sense of national trauma is overwhelming. When readers compare this atmosphere to the biblical narrative, the emotional similarities become difficult to dismiss. Exodus portrays Egypt as a kingdom brought to its knees by escalating calamities. Pharaoh's hardened resistance leads to suffering unlike anything the nation had experienced before. Exodus chapter 12, verse 30 declares, "There was not a house where there was not one dead." That verse carries the same haunting mood found throughout the Ipuwer text. a civilization overwhelmed by grief and fear. Whether coincidence or connection, the resonance between the two accounts continues to captivate millions. The reason the Ipuwer Papyrus generates such emotional reactions is not because it proves the Bible beyond all doubt. Most professional historians would not make that claim. Rather, the document challenges a long-standing assumption held by many skeptics, that biblical narratives emerged entirely disconnected from historical memory. For generations, critics often portrayed Exodus as pure mythology with no possible Egyptian echoes whatsoever. Yet here exists an ancient Egyptian text describing catastrophic conditions remarkably similar to elements of the biblical account. Even if the parallels are ultimately indirect or symbolic, they demonstrate something important. Ancient Egypt itself preserved traditions of devastating national calamity. That alone complicates simplistic dismissals of Exodus. History has a strange habit of resurfacing when least expected. For thousands of years, the Ipuwer Papyrus lay hidden beneath the sands of Egypt, unknown to the modern world. Yet today, its mysterious words continue igniting debates across universities, churches, documentaries, and online discussions around the globe. Some see coincidence, others see confirmation, but nearly everyone agrees on one thing: the text is extraordinary. If you enjoyed this exploration into one of archaeology's greatest mysteries, subscribe to the channel and join us for more deep dives into ancient texts, biblical discoveries, forgotten civilizations, and the hidden secrets still waiting beneath the sands of time.